Tone Shields, Rob Ellis hanging with you on this Friday Eve. Tone, hope you're doing great, man. Always a pleasure hanging out with you each and every day. How you feeling, man?
I feel great, my friend. What do I always say, Rob? What do I always say? I feel good and I smell good.
Smell good, look good.
That's what I'm talking about.
Sound good.
Hey.
So let's say hi to everybody. Let's say hi. Flexing and Stepping, M. Reyes, Jalen, I'm awake. Cool Ranch, David, Rob from Temple. Wawa is great. Okay. Ken, what is up? Philly 07, Teresa. Who else do we have here? I want to make sure I'm getting everybody. Twiz, what's up, Twiz? What is up, Ken? I think I got Ken. Ken, you got two. But Sills, we're 10-1. Bry Guy. Dark Skin Carson. I don't even know what. I don't want to dive into that one. Let's see. Slagger. Gotcha. I think I got everybody. Chuck, what's up, Chuck? Hope everybody's well. Andres. Jack. Oh, Jack. Hey, Rob, my guy. Jack Cal.
Rob, do you see what Slagger said?
No. Do I want to know? Someone spreads all his money on Team Gear. Is that what that one?
Yeah, that one. That's not true, Slagger.
Do I even want to know what the other one was? I don't think I do.
No. That's what I'm talking about.
I do. Let me see the hoodie, man. Let me see what's going on with the hoodie.
Oh no,
I see the eagle wings. Stand up.
This is something personal I made.
Chalk it up.
This is from the sports network that I was building before I was working with JAKIB
I got
Sports.
You. So interesting enough, my boy Cal checks in. I got the Guinness hoodie on, and Cal's in Dublin, and that's where the Guinness factory is. And I tell everybody, if you go to Dublin, if you ever get a chance to go, first of all, Tony, you love Dublin. Let me tell you something. It's a great city. But if you go, do the tour of the Guinness building. They give you a tour, and it's not just what you think, like, oh, I'm in a factory and there's the big, giant kegs. Or it's not like that. It's awesome. And they give you a dinner at the end, a steak dinner.
You know what's funny? I'm drinking a lot of beer, but I don't think I've ever had Guinness.
Guinness is good. It's not something like if you're having one or two, it's great. It'll fill you fast. It's not like if you're out with your boys and you're throwing a few back, you're not going to have a ton of Guinness.
Okay, got it. It's one of those. Okay.
Yeah, it's not like you having a light beer, you can have. It's like drinking water, frankly, and you know what I mean. Yeah. But if you're not saying you could have a few, you could have
No, I know what you mean. No, I know what you mean. It's certain beers that are just heavier on you.
It's heavier.
And it's usually those dark beers like Yingling. I can't. Yes. I'm more of a Yingling guy, and for me it's Corona, then Yingling, and then I'm pretty much open after that. But you're right, Yingling sits on you a little heavier. I can knock back Coronas like nothing.
Cal, you got to do the tour, man. Trust me. If you're in Dublin, you got to do it. Yeah, I'm with you. Like I can sit there and throw back. I like Yingling too, by the way. But Coors Light, Miller Light, whatever. Any of those kind of light beers are just boom, 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 boom.
You know what I started?
I like Mexican beer too, by the way. What Slagger said, I like Mexican.
You want to know the first beer I fell in love with, and I was hooked on it. This was in college. Miller High Life.
Oh yeah,
the champagne of beers.
That's an old school. The champagne of beers is old school, man. And I'll tell you what, it's good. I don't mind a Miller High Life.
No, it's delicious.
Yeah, man.
It's so refreshing.
The old heads know what they're doing. Who are throwing back some champagne of beer, man. They know what they're doing.
I haven't had a beer in God knows how long.
Yeah. So are you more like you got more to like the spirits, wine? Like what are you? I'm not a wine guy or a spirits.
I just haven't been drinking lately. I just haven't been drinking much lately at all.
I don't get out much either, man.
I don't. These days I'm a social drinker.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have some wine in the house, but I don't just crack open a bottle of wine on the weekend. My wife may do that, but lately we haven't really been drinking that much.
Yeah. I'm with. Look, it's hard to find the time, man. I know that sounds crazy, but
no, that's exactly what it is. It's hard to find the time that I know I'm going to have just to relax and just really enjoy the buzz.
Yeah, and my only other issue is, and I'm pretty lucky that I don't generally get really hungover. I'm knock on wood in that sense, right? Because I usually will shut it down at a decent time and get an okay night's sleep. But
you're probably awful when you're hungover.
I'm not good when I'm hungover, dude.
You're probably awful.
Well, but here's the problem. Because I can't sit still. Like if I'm useless and banged up and laying on the couch, my mind is a disaster. I need to be able to get up and be productive just for my own edification. So that's one of the reasons why I try not to get too heavy into it where I can't even function. You know what I'm saying?
Like, yeah, it's been a long time since I've been
same here
hungover. It's been a long time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Nonetheless,
yeah,
good talk. Great way to start the morning, you guys. Start your morning with a beer.
And the best, I'll tell you, the best for me at least too. Obviously, you got to stay hydrated and whatnot, but the best for me, the best cure for a hangover is if you get a decent night's sleep. If you don't get a decent night's sleep, I think you're in some trouble, man.
Yeah. And also, if you guys are looking for a quick recovery, Pedialyte.
Pedialyte's good.
Pedialyte's really good for you. In the mornings you wake up, get you going, you know, get you a nice breakfast in you.
Yeah.
You'll be all right by 1 p.m. depending on what time you wake up.
Breakfast in you and take care of your business in the library, if you know what I'm saying. If you can do that too, you'll be good to go.
Absolutely.
All right. There you go, kids. Never say we aren't here to help.
Right.
All right. So
you have to be 21 years or older to consume this message.
Correct. And if you're not, you hang in there someday. All right. So a couple things. We don't have any kind of updates, at least as of right now. We may as the show goes on. But any kind of updates on Joel Embiid and where things are with the knee. Here's what we know. He was sent home from the road trip to get further testing. He will not play against the Jazz tonight as they close out the road trip. So we're just, we're in limbo right now. I want to get back to that in a minute, but let me give you the big story too here. The Commanders are hiring Dan Quinn as their head coach.
So it's official now.
That's official. So the Cowboys, DC, formerly of the Falcons, formerly of the Seahawks back in the day as a DC, whatever. He goes to Washington. So the last spot is filled.
In the division. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I always try to look at things from an Eagles perspective. I know it was a disaster in that division, that wild card game against Green Bay for everybody across the board. But I thought the guy was a pretty good defensive coordinator. So I'm glad to see the Cowboys lose him.
Absolutely. It's funny. Prior to Dan Quinn getting there, they had that same amount of talent, but didn't really know what to do with it. So he goes there with the same players. I can't remember who was the DC before him, but regardless, Dan Quinn comes there
in Dallas.
I can't remember his name, but he was an older guy, and everybody was like, "Yeah, he's aged himself out of the league. They need to move on from him."
Yeah.
But Dan Quinn comes in, flipped that defense on its head, made them a top 5 defense back-to-back seasons. I think 2022 and 2023. And now he gets another shot at a head coaching job. I think this is going to be the last hurrah for him. So hopefully he can generate some production out of the Washington Commanders organization. Not sure how much he will be able to get done, just given their circumstances. So he has to know, and they have to know, this is going to be a bit of a project, just in terms of their culture, in terms of personnel.
Yeah,
they're still figuring out the quarterback position. So we'll see how the thing turns out. But overall, congratulations to Dan Quinn on the new opportunity.
So here's all the spots all filled. So Commanders, Dan Quinn, Mike McDonald to the Seahawks, Raheem Morris to the Falcons, Panthers, Dave Canales, Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, Titans, Brian Callahan, Raiders, Antonio Pierce, and Patriots, Jared Mayo. So every spot.
Eagles, Kellen Moore.
Kellen Moore / Vic Fangio. You have to get them both in there, Tony. Yeah, there's a slash there.
Oh man, no, yeah. I need to stop taking jabs at Nick Sirianni, man.
Well, all right. So let's hit a couple of these things. Then I'm glad you brought it.
Because let me stop fronting. Like, as a person, I like Nick Sirianni. Like, seriously, as a
hard guy not to like. Yeah,
he's likable in my opinion. And I think I just understand his type. You know what I mean? The emotional, the passion. I understand that. But I'm just not a fan of how he does certain things with the team, and that's pretty much it. It's never personal with me. So
yeah. And look, as we talked about a lot, the big question with him is, we know the players like him as a dude. Nobody questions that. He takes the bullets for them. They all like him as a person. There's no disrespect as far as that goes, what kind of guy he is. But the question is, do they respect him as a coach? And I'm curious what your take is, because you and I were batting this about the pre-show meeting, but Jason Kelsey was did his podcast with his brother Travis, the New Heights podcast. And he really did. He addressed the elephant in the room in that he said, look, I know he's being asked basically, what are you going to do now that you're not scheming up the offense? What's your role as a CEO? And he did go above and beyond, the endorsement that he gave Nick. And it wasn't, again, I'm just telling you, I've heard enough of these where it's kind of like, yeah, we love Nick as a coach. Hopefully we get a turn where it's just BS. he really went to bat for him and talked about he's one of the best coaches, if not the best coach he's had in terms of addressing things, correcting them in the moment, doing the kind of things that a CEO has to do. Now, your take was interesting in that Kelsey's part of the older faction of guys. Do the younger guys feel the same?
Right. And, and you brought this up. The younger guys are more on the Switzerland side. They're
very quiet for the most part, dudes.
They're very stoic. They're very, just doing their jobs.
And that's only natural. Whenever you start someplace, you're not looking to make waves right away. You're just kind of feeling your way around to an extent. So I understand it.
Exactly. And then, some of those guys, it's just in their DNA to just go about things as business, as usual.
Yeah.
So I think they asked Devontae Smith about up at Adams, what went wrong. And he was like, look, we didn't make plays, man. We weren't good enough. We weren't as good as we thought we were. Overall, Jason Kelce, his endorsement is interesting to me because we still don't know if he's going to be here or not.
Yeah, we don't.
I think he will, but if he's not, how much stock can we put into the endorsement if it won't have a direct impact on the guys in the building if he's not there? But I think it's time that we start looking towards or looking forward to the next crop of leaders within this organization. And that's what's going to be the challenge for the Philadelphia Eagles. Not saying that we don't have any leaders in the room, but I believe their next challenge, along with repairing the defense, is establishing the next core four. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the next group of foundational players on your team, right? I think we see Jalen Hurts is that guy as of right now. And they have to maximize his time as long as he's a Philadelphia Eagle. And who knows if he'll get a second contract. He just signed the first one, so I know where I'm looking way far ahead. But, if we look at Jalen Hurts as a core member of this team, you guys start looking for other guys as well. Okay, who's going to be the guys that we can see being here for the long haul? I think one guy that I see strong potential in being a core guy for the remainder of his career in Philadelphia is Jordan Mailata.
Oh, for sure. And he went to bat for Nick. He did. He was basically like, I can't even believe you're asking me this question when they were cleaning out the lockers. I mean, I was a genuine response. Like, is this really a thing that people are talking about firing him? He did say that.
Yeah. Mailata is as genuine as they come.
There's no filter.
None. Yeah. Not at all. So I think he's one of those guys I look at and I say, that's a core guy for the remainder of his career. Is there anybody else on this team that you look at? And
I would say Devontae Smith for sure.
I see Devontae. I think they're going to. I think it's no question they paid Devontae. I think the real question is how they balance the cap with AJ Brown and Devontae's contract. That's going to be the real challenge. I know the cap is going up, but it only goes up by so much. That's going to be the real thing to watch, how they balance those contracts, if they can balance them at all. But okay, I like that. Mailata, Devontae Smith. Anybody else that you think about in this roster? Because I think it's important.
Yeah, I don't know and I'm being honest with you. I don't know the personality of Landon Dickerson well enough. Like, he seems like a fun, sort of good old boy dude, right? But I don't know that he's going to be a vocal. It's, you know what the thing is too, Tone. Kelsey's an exception. It's hard for offensive linemen to really be viewed like super outspoken way too.
Well, here's the thing. Lane Johnson is really not. I mean, he speaks, but Lane Johnson is actually a very low key dude when you really think about how he carries himself. Kelsey's the more so the podcast that you see him outside, ripping the shirt off, and Lane is more so the calm, cool, collected one. So I think that's where Landon Dickerson falls. I do see Landon Dickerson being an integral piece on this team in the long term. The Eagles invest in their O-line like no other. So Mailata, Landon Dickerson. I've also had opportunities to see Landon Dickerson, just seeing how he interacts with his teammates. The Eagles put out a lot of documentary style content on their YouTube channel, and I got to see how Dickerson carried himself from his rookie year up until now. He's a
well-liked guy, yeah.
And he's well-liked in the locker room. He's actually funnier. He actually has a more of a personality on him than you may think. Him and Mailata have a great relationship. Obviously, they play next to each other.
Right.
So Devontae Smith,
so let me go.
Mailata,
here's a problem. Herein lies a problem.
Okay.
You go to the other side of the ball.
And that's what I was low-key trying to phase us to, right? Who are the core guys on defense?
I sit here right now having no idea what Jordan Davis is going to turn out to be. None. I'm the head man of the Jalen Carter fan club. So I'm a big believer in Jalen Carter.
Same here.
I don't know that he's a vocal guy. I don't know that he isn't. I don't know. He's a rookie. You got to give that guy a little bit of time.
Yeah, of course. I want to let guys mature. You know what I mean? I'm older than I'm 29, and I feel like I'm still trying to figure out my maturity a little bit. So again, I know what it's like to be 22.
So the problem here's the problem you have, Tone. There's no linebackers, none. I unless you believe in Kobe Dean, and I put him as more of a question mark than even Jordan Davis at this point. There's no corners that I think are long term. Maybe Ringo might be, but we're still a long way from knowing that.
It was a long way
from Ricks. That, yeah. I think Blankenship is a guy on the team, but I don't know that Blankenship is going to take a leadership role just because I don't know that he's going to be prominent enough. So there aren't a ton of them. And it's just the way the roster's constructed that there aren't a ton of them right now.
Right. And I think that's an issue for the Philadelphia Eagles, right? That defense has been filled with more mercenaries than anything.
Correct.
And it's hard to establish a core group of guys when you're not drafting well. The reality is your core guys that are typically there for the long haul are guys you typically draft. And in order to be taken seriously as a core guy, you have to, your leadership has to be married with your production.
Yeah.
And the sad part about it is they haven't gotten that level of production on the defensive side. I mean, Jalen Carter, obviously a rookie, but we're not looking at him to be a leader just yet. But does he have potential to be a core guy going forward? Sure. But again, it's going to come down to how he carries himself, on and off the field. And again, the production, can he stay healthy? Jordan Davis, he has the personality, in my opinion, to be a core guy. He's an accountable guy, but again, how accountable is he when it comes to his conditioning? The endurance, the diet and nutrition. I think that's going to be his determining factor to see if he's a core guy going forward. But that's going to be the challenge for Howie Roseman, right? That's been the Philadelphia Eagles challenge overall, drafting players outside of the D-line. If you're not in the D-line, they struggle with assessing you. And I'm having a hard time understanding the disconnect there, right? If when it comes to the trenches, the Eagles understand it.
Yeah.
But they can't find guys, in the DB room or in the linebackers. They struggle with evaluating those kind of guys. So I'm really curious to see where they go. But overall, they have 9 draft picks. That includes the comp picks. Maybe the Eagles get their hands on a couple more, but they need to have a strong draft. They have to, because they can't keep handling their defense like this, Rob. It's not sustainable.
Yeah, and we're going to get into Howie and what he's got in front of him at 12 o'clock, and it's a lot. Okay, a lot. Here's the other thing I wanted to touch on, Tone. I know there's been chatter about AJ Brown. I see some folks in the chat that they want him gone, et cetera.
I think those people that say that are trolling.
Well, I mean, yeah, either way, I mean, the cap hit is $41 million for him to be traded. So he's not going to get traded. And I know yesterday when he was asked about this, and Chris Franklin's joining us at 11:30, and Chris Franklin talked to both AJ and Devontae. So I'm looking forward to hearing get Chris's impression, because he talked to them directly, right? But when those two guys were on, and I saw the clip from Kay Adams up in Adams, I thought AJ's response was very sort of matter of fact, in that he said, look, man, I've been there before. I got traded. I wasn't necessarily expecting that to be the case when I got traded from Tennessee. But hey, I got to just worry about my family, et cetera, or something to that effect, right? So, he wasn't like, hey, I don't want to go anywhere. And I think people are reading into that with the thought of he wants to go. I don't think he wants to go. I think that because he's been through it, before, I think he's trying to not be as emotionally invested, as he could be, and just be ready for however it, plays itself out, basically.
Yeah. You can get jaded, in this regard, right? When once you get traded, you become numb to anything else after that. You know what it's like. You've been there. You take everything people say to you with a grain of salt.
Right.
And I completely understand his sentiment. I can't.
So there it is. So you can.
I didn't have any problem with what he said, by the way. I didn't have any problem with his response. Nothing at all. I felt like he had. What else did you expect him to say? I mean,
no,
not you, but the people. What else did you expect him to say? You know,
I think people want him to be like, I want to be an Eagle for life. And that's just the reality of this day and age. Not most guys will throw that out there, but you look at it, 42.5 is the dead cap that you would have if he's moved. So he's not going anywhere. And by the way, I don't want him going anywhere, man. There have been too many years.
I don't either.
Yeah, where the Eagles didn't have playmakers.
I definitely don't want him going anywhere. You know, and you know, I always try to reiterate this, you know, when it comes to my premise about trading AJ Brown, because I think some people still think I want him gone for some reason, and I don't. I want AJ Brown here for as long that's feasible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If they can find a way to make the money work, I would love to keep AJ Brown. But I'm just looking at it from the business perspective and the long-term ramifications of trying to maintain two $20+ million wide receivers on your books. That's going to really limit what you're able to do on the defensive side. I mean, doesn't that logic make sense, Rob?
It does. But here's what I believe. I believe that if there's the greatest superpower that Howie has is cap manipulation. He's the king. If there's anybody who can figure out how to get Devontae and AJ situated, it'll be him.
Yeah. Now, I will say this though, because of those guys, you know, contracts, current contract and future contracts, and their talent level, I want to welcome Eagles fans to this reality. AJ Brown may not be moved this year or next year. He may not even be moved the year after that. But I want you guys to know, Devontae Smith and AJ Brown are not finishing their career. Well, I think Devontae will. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith aren't going to be together until the end of time.
Oh, I agree with that. Totally.
You know
I mean, look, this is football, man. Tom Brady played elsewhere. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, yeah, I don't think that at all.
Yeah. They're not going to be on the same field together for the remainder of Devontae's career. You know what I'm saying?
No.
AJ Brown's going to be here until further notice. The contract has him here up until 2026, 2027. I think he's an unrestricted free agent. So at that point, that's going to be a conversation for then. But for now, he's the best wide receiver on the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't want him to go anywhere, but I just want people to keep in mind that the Eagles are likely weighing all their options and how they can rebuild this defense over the course of the next couple years, because they see their clock is not based on AJ Brown's contract or anybody else. It's based on Jalen Hurts' contract. That's their clock. Mm-hmm. They're looking at it like, okay, the first year that contract is kicked in, we got 4 seasons. Mm-hmm. 4 seasons to get this thing right.
Kicking off this season. Yep.
Yeah, kicking off this season. So we got about 4 or 5 seasons to figure out, what's the long-term answer? Can we compete for a Super Bowl? That's the clock they're on.
Yep.
So these next few years, you're going to see the Philadelphia Eagles taking a lot of big risks, a lot of big swings, to try to put themselves back in Super Bowl contention.
I got you. All right, let's get a timeout. Let's talk to Chris Franklin when we come back. NJ.com covers the Birds. Talked to Devontae Smith and AJ Brown yesterday. So we'll hit Chris with any number of things regarding the Birds and, of course, his conversation with those guys. That's Tone. I'm Rob. We're Sports Take. Let's talk about Bravo Pizza of Havertown. Family owned since 1985. Alex and the crew, a great job every single day. Fresh, homemade food, not sitting under some heat lamp. 20 different styles of pizza daily. They have slices to go. They have specialized pizza your way. They don't just do pizza. They do fresh pasta, sandwiches, wraps, wings, salads. Bravo Pizza is also committed to the community. They have fundraisers for charity, schools, little leagues, where the proceeds go to those organizations. You can follow them at the Bravo Pizza of on Instagram and Facebook for daily specials and promotions. They're at 1305 Westchester Pike, Manoa Shopping Center in Havertown, 1305 Westchester Pike, Manoa Shopping Center, Havertown, PA. Give them a call, 610-446-3810, 610-446-3810. Bravo Pizza of Havertown.
I remember getting my heart broken when they lost the Super Bowl in 2004. We're big Eagles fans. We moved to South Philly because of the Eagles. When they won, we went straight to Broad Street, and everybody was going nuts over there, and it was just a memory that you'll never forget.